Let's jump into it. Number 1. Homer. Homer is credited with writing two of the most important works in human history, the Iliad and the Odyssey. For centuries, people pictured him as a blind bard wandering ancient Greece, singing heroic tales to an entranced audience. But the uncomfortable truth is this: we have no idea whether Homer was a real individual. In fact, many scholars believe Homer was not a person, but a label used to represent a tradition of oral poets who collectively shaped the epics over generations. There are no contemporary records of Homer, no biography, no verified birthplace, and no physical evidence of his existence. The earliest references to him appear centuries after the epics were already circulating. Linguistic analysis shows the texts contain layers of dialects from different periods, suggesting multiple contributors. It's as if the world needed a single name to attach to two colossal masterpieces. So, Homer became the literary mascot of the ancient storytelling tradition. Yet whether he existed or not barely matters. The impact of Homer is unquestionable. His stories laid the foundation for Western literature, influenced philosophy and ethics, and shaped cultural ideas about heroism. Real or not, Homer remains one of the most powerful names in human creativity. Number 2. Uncle Sam. Uncle Sam looks exactly like someone who should have existed. The beard, the tall top hat, the red, white and blue suit, and of course that finger pointing straight at you like he's about to give you life advice, draft you into the army, or scold you for skipping responsibilities. Everything about him feels like the portrait of a real historical figure, some old patriotic uncle who walked the streets, gave fiery speeches, or secretly advised presidents. But here's the big issue. Uncle Sam was never a real person. Not even close. He's pure symbolism, pure marketing, pure propaganda wrapped in charisma. His iconic image didn't come from any government record or biography, but from a cartoonist who wanted a strong, instantly recognizable face for military recruiting posters. Before the artwork even existed, writers had already used Uncle Sam as a fictional nickname for the entire United States, not an actual human being. Then, something strange happened. The branding worked too well. People accepted him as real. They believed there had to be some flesh-and-blood origin behind the stern stare and the old-school fashion. And because his image spread everywhere, textbooks, posters, parades, toys, political cartoons, memes, millions grew up thinking Uncle Sam was an important historical figure they simply hadn't read much about. He became real through repetition, that's the funniest part. A character designed to represent a government became a man people swore once existed. He's the imaginary uncle everyone assumes is living in the national family tree simply because he shows up every time the country needs a symbol of authority or unity. Uncle Sam didn't walk among presidents, soldiers, or citizens, but he still managed to sneak his way into American history as if he did. A mascot promoted to legend, no birth certificate required. Number 3. Mulan. Mulan is celebrated as a brave warrior who disguised herself as a man, took her father's place in battle, and became a national hero. It's an epic tale, but historically, Mulan sits in a strange grey zone between myth and folklore. The earliest written story about her appeared centuries after she supposedly lived, with no specific location, birth record, military record, or verifiable fact. What's more interesting is how each retelling changes her completely. In some, she's a noble warrior. In others, she becomes a tragic figure. Some stories even add magical creatures. It's clear that Mulan wasn't one real person. She was a symbolic icon created to represent loyalty, courage, and sacrifice. Yet, today, people around the world confidently speak of her as a real historical figure. Schools teach about her. Movies portray her. Statues honor her. Mulan feels real because her story speaks to universal values. She never existed in the historical sense, but her legend is so emotionally powerful that people turned her into reality through cultural memory. Number 4. Lycaon. Lycaon is one of those legends that feels weirdly believable because it explains so much folklore that came after it. According to Greek mythology, he was a king of Arcadia who decided it was a brilliant idea to test Zeus by serving him a dish made from human flesh. Spoiler: Zeus was not amused. In a divine fit of rage, he blasted Lycaon with lightning and transformed him into a wolf, creating the world's first werewolf. What makes Lycaon fascinating is how seamlessly his story blends moral lesson, horror, and supernatural origin myth. Ancient cultures used tales like his to warn against impiety, cannibalism, and the consequences of challenging the gods. But over time, the story evolved far beyond Greece. It seeded the idea that humans could shapeshift into wolves, especially after committing taboo acts. By the Middle Ages, the concept of the werewolf had spread across Europe, but Lycaon was the blueprint, the protagonist zero of an entire global mythos. Even though he never existed, his legend shaped centuries of storytelling, from medieval superstition to modern horror movies. Lycaon is proof of how one myth, told at the right moment, can echo forever. Number 5. The Queen of Sheba. The Queen of Sheba is one of history's most captivating figures. Majestic, powerful, and steeped in enough mystery to fuel legends across 3 major cultures. She appears in the Hebrew Bible, the Quran, and Ethiopian tradition, each portraying her as a brilliant and wealthy ruler who traveled to test King Solomon with riddles. But here's where things get a little funny despite her fame. There is no definitive evidence that she ever existed. Archaeologists and historians agree that Sheba was likely inspired by the ancient kingdom of Saba in modern Yemen or Ethiopia. But the queen herself remains elusive. There are no inscriptions bearing her name, no royal tomb, no verified artifacts, just stories passed through centuries. And those stories are incredible. She is described as a woman whose intelligence matched her beauty, whose caravans carried treasures of gold, incense, and exotic animals, and whose meeting with Solomon supposedly sparked a diplomatic and spiritual legacy. Number 6. The Turpin Brothers. For years, stories circulated about the brilliant Turpin Brothers, 2 eccentric inventors who supposedly created groundbreaking technologies before mysteriously disappearing from history. People spoke about them like unsung geniuses, whose inventions were stolen or hidden away. Some tales claimed they were pioneers of flight before the Wright brothers. Others said they invented mechanical marvels that disappeared due to sabotage or secrecy. But here's the truth. They never existed. Their names originated from satirical articles, exaggerated rumors, and fictional accounts that mixed fact with imagination until nobody could separate them. The story spread because humans love tales about forgotten geniuses. The idea of brilliant inventors erased by history is so compelling that the Turpin Brothers became real through gossip alone. There are absolutely no records, no patents, no documents, not even a confirmed place of birth. Yet, countless people still reference them in discussions about hidden technology or suppressed innovation. They're living proof of how quickly fiction transforms into history when it fills an emotional gap. In this case, the belief that genius often goes unrecognized. Number 7. Prester. John Prester. John was a mythical ruler, a wealthy, wise Christian king who supposedly ruled a magical kingdom somewhere far away. Medieval explorers were obsessed with finding him. The letters describing his kingdom were pure fiction, filled with wild details about rivers of gems, griffins, cyclops tribes, and fountains of youth. But Europeans believed every word. Why? Because the world desperately wanted him to be real. Prester John symbolized hope, alliance, and divine support at a time when people felt surrounded by chaos. So explorers launched real expeditions, driven by a fictional king. He influenced maps, diplomacy, global navigation, and historical decisions. That's how believable the myth became. Even when expeditions failed, people simply moved his kingdom to another continent, first Asia, then Africa, then India, anywhere but reality. Prester John never existed, but his shadow absolutely shaped the real world. He's the only fictional king who made entire countries change foreign policy based on a fairy tale. We'll leave it there for today. More of this coming soon, so do consider subscribing.